Come right on in. Welcome to Late Night with the Two Witnesses. Don't worry, there are only two elders, not three. So you are safe. Broadcasting west of the Rockies and east of the Paradise. With 144,000 watts of high-energy active force, GG for GB and his helper pioneer their way through the valley of the shadow of the Watchtower. Remember, do not subscribe, do not like. Be a trailblazer, not a sheep. Run for your life and don't look back, like Lot's wife.
Hey, Dean, how you doing? It's good to see you again, Dean. Hi, guys. Sit down.
I hope you guys like that intro. And today we're going to be talking about this Where's American Biblical Prophecy? Pastor Phil Hotsenpiller reaction. Check this out. Usually I only react to my own videos, but I'm going to be by myself on this one. So let me just preface this real quick. A long time ago, there was this one guy. He was an apostate, right? He took down his videos and stuff. His name was Jack Foley up in Seattle. And he told me, gave me some good advice. He says, Gilbert, you know, when you do a video, he goes, why don't you shelve it for 3 days? And then after 3 days, go back and look at it, edit it or add to it or publish it or delete it. Because now you get the emotion out, you know? And that was very good advice. But there's another advice that my brother Jesse talks about, how John Lennon told George Harrison of the Beatles that when you get an idea and it's, you know, that jingle, that those lyrics are in your mind, drop everything you're doing and focus 100% on that. So who's right? Nobody's right. Nobody's wrong. It's just there's different approaches, and sometimes you should take one approach and sometimes you should take another approach. It's all good. So when I saw this video, I didn't watch the whole thing, but when I saw this video and it really, I'm like, dang, I've been thinking about this for a long time. Not whether where is America in biblical prophecy, but the fact that this guy calls himself a pastor, and I'm not knocking on him because now I'm entering into the 11th commandment where Ronald Reagan says, do not speak ill of your fellow Republican. Well, you can add the word your fellow Christian. These people, David, Stacy, and Phil, they all believe in God. They all love their country. So Jesus says that they're not against you, they're with you. The problem I have is a lot of people don't go to church. A lot of people hate going to church. And it's why? Because of Christians. They drive you crazy. And I'm going to talk about how, you know, when you're looking at people who have been burnt and abused by cults or very aggressive 501c bearing churches, people get burned. They still believe it. Well, some people end up leaving and don't believe in God, and but some people they just like, you know what, I had it. I'm tired of you guys. And a lot of our Christian brothers and sisters don't understand that sometimes you scare more people away from your church than you bring in. Why? Because you don't keep it very simple. And here's the thing. Where is American biblical prophecy? Well, when I read the gospel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, nowhere do I get the idea that the central theme was whether or not that Jesus was trying to say, hey, I got a crossword puzzle for you. And when you die, there's going to be an SAT test. And we're going to see if you figured out the riddles. I don't get that from the Gospels of Jesus Christ. What I get in modern day Christianity is people complicating the very simple teachings of Jesus. And then, like in one of my other videos, is they use the ping pong religion. They'll go into the book, like this one, they go to the book of Judges and you know, the book of Judges. And there's nothing wrong with that, saying that, you know, there's a parallel because, you know, to modern day. I understand that because King Solomon said there's nothing new under the sun. The same thing that happened in biblical times are going to happen in our times. I understand when these guys, they sound a lot like the things that my brother Jesse and I talk about. I understand the need for a revival. I understand the need for coming back to God. I understand all that. The problem is when you do stuff like this, nowhere in the teachings of Jesus Christ do I get that Jesus is trying to tell me that I have to figure out a riddle and how America is involved in biblical prophecy. And what this is that the churches today, And I'm not calling these guys evil, but this is what I go by, and this is what I live by, because it's my quote. You can quote me on this. Gilbert Gonzalez says, "Simple made complicated is evil." See, this is what, and I know that simple makes complicated is evil, because when we were J Dubs, uh, something as simple as John 1:1, and I'm not going to get the Bible and read here with quote. You know what John 1:1 says, right? Something so simple, just a couple of words. What do we do as J Dubs? We throw in the indefinite article. Who does that? Who throws in an indefinite article explanation of John 1:1? Simple made complicated is evil. And this is what happens when we start trying to throw in the Ezekiel and the Daniels and all these things, and we're trying to make the Bible into a jigsaw puzzle, because we're wanting people to come back to church. And no, simplicity, the simplicity of the Christ is the answer. Keep it simple. Now, it was so simple. Check this out. The teachings of Jesus Christ were so simple, is that when Gandhi was asked, and if then I had to only face the Sermon on the Mount and my own interpretation of it, I should not hesitate to say, oh, yes, I'm a Christian. So you see, the problem is we as Christians scare people, because we complicate religion, we complicate worship of God, we complicate it. And then somebody like Gandhi, who's a Hindu, he can't be a Christian because he says, you guys are a bunch of whack jobs. But if you go to Gandhi, he says, Gandhi, it's only 15 minutes, chapter 5, 6, and 7 of Matthew. Read it and tell me what you think of it. And then Gandhi comes back and says, this is a no-brainer. The 15 minutes it took to read the teachings of Jesus is a no-brainer. You don't have to go above and beyond that. And that's the simplicity of Jesus Christ. He also goes on to say that when he's talking to the Viceroy of India, the Viceroy sounds like Star Wars, right? Because it was a Viceroy in Star Wars, the one that reports to the Queen or the King. When your country and mine shall get together on the teachings laid down by Christ in this Sermon on the Mount, we shall have solved the problems not only of our countries, but those of the entire world. It was also a way, I think, in my opinion, where he was telling the British, you guys look at the straw in the eyes of the Indians, but you guys are the ones coming to us with the teachings of Jesus Christ. And you guys are the ones, creating slavery. You guys are the ones, causing all this havoc and stealing. And so but Gandhi didn't throw Jesus out. It says, he didn't blame Jesus for what these guys were doing. He kept it very simple and understood, no, you guys got something really good, and that's Christianity and the teachings of Jesus. If we can just focus on these 3 chapters and live by them, problems are solved. And then what happens at the end, where Jesus Christ ends the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 7, he does not say, you can quote me again. Gilbert Gonzalez says that Jesus did not finish the Sermon on the Mount saying, I'll see you next Sunday. On the contrary, when you read the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus tells you to go and live your life, shine your light, and build that foundation on the word, on the words that he said on the sermon. If you do that, it's like a foundation for your life. But what happens is you go to church, and this is what you get in church. You get all of these people, and God loved these people. Like a lot of things that they were saying, I agree with. And I don't want to bash on my fellow Christians, but you listen to these people, and it's like when you die again, there's going to be some kind of SAT score. Like there's some kind of crossword puzzle. And by doing this, you elevate yourself, that you know more, you have these special knowledge. And it's very hard for me to respect religious people, because right there, Pastor Phil Hotsenpiller. What do you not understand on reading comprehension that in Matthew 6 on the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus said, stop calling each other father, rabbi, teacher. Don't do that. But for some reason, the religious leaders of today are hell-bent on talking about judges, Ezekiel and Daniel, but they just totally forget. Hey, Jesus said, stop this. You're not a cardinal. You're not a bishop. And then some go as far like to go and call themselves apostles. I went to this one station website, and this guy's interviewing an apostle. He calls himself an apostle. I'm an apostle. Really? Where's the humility? Keeping it simple. No, you're always elevating yourself. You're never a brother of somebody else. And this is where one of the greatest things that I learned from being a J-Dub and the truth about the truth is I raise up my hand and I say, hi, my name is Gilbert Gonzalez. I used to be an idolater. You put men on a pedestal. And I know a lot of you guys go to church, and I'm not going to discourage you from going to church. But when you go to church, these people want to be called pastor. And I just can't have it. Now, listen, when I was in 6th grade, I had a teacher that everybody loved, Mr. Everett. Years later, about 20 years later, I run into him at Food City in Yuma, Arizona, at a grocery store. And I go, Mr. Everett. And we started talking. It was a great conversation. And he goes, Gilbert, you can call me Ken. I go, no, I can never call you Ken. It would be an insult. It would be me insulting you. I would never, ever think of being par with you. You were my teacher, and you're always going to be Mr. Everett. So I don't think that Jesus, when he says don't be calling people teacher, I don't think he meant that for school, right? But I do understand that in our life, we always have people who were our mentors, who helped us when we were young, we're teenagers, we're adults, and they have a special place in our life. So in this case, Mr. Everett, I told them, you'll always be Mr. Everett to me. If anybody of my classmates call him Ken, I would look down on them. I would look like you are very, shame on you for trying to elevate yourself. Now you say, well, Gilbert, isn't that a little bit hypocritical teaching? No, because if you were to ever meet Mr. Everett, you should call him Ken. All of you should call him Ken. But as for me and my brother Jesse, who he taught both of us, he will always be Mr. Everett. That's us showing respect, and that's how it should be. That a lot of us will give people the accolades that they deserve. I'll give you an example. Donald Trump. He's always going to be Mr. President. I'm an American citizen, and he's Mr. President because he earned the votes of the people. Another person that earned the votes of the people is Barack Obama. So if I were to meet Barack Obama, I wouldn't call him Barack. Never. He earned the respect and the votes, and so he's Mr. President. But a lot of you filled with so much hate that concept doesn't ring. You'll only call one person Mr. President, not the other, because your hate is too strong. And you can't understand that your hate is keeping you from showing due proper respect. However, if Mr. President Obama or Mr. President Trump were to go to another country, let's say Mexico, well, technically they're not obligated, in my opinion, to call them Mr. President. They're Donald and they're Barack. If they choose to, that's fine. But we as American citizens are obligated. So what I'm trying to say is that it's respect when we call people Mr. This, Mr. President, or we call people Your Honor in court. When I see the judge at McDonald's, I don't say Your Honor. No, we understand that there's a time and a place for it all. Going back with this, with this pastor, this is what happens. The pastor now has this title, and he has to come up with clever gimmicks. And where is American biblical prophecy is a gimmick to get you back next Sunday. Whereas if you saw the intro, I say, don't subscribe, don't like, go and shine your light. If you go to ggforgb.com and you look at my voting ballot, it'll tell you, go shine your light. You don't have to come back. I'm just your brother. I'm not above you. I'm not below you. We're equals. But every once in a while, I will run into somebody where I have to say, no, I'm going to hold you in high esteem. I'll give you an example. I love watching late night nightcap with Club Shay and Club Shay Shay with Shannon Sharp. Sometimes he can get a little X-rated, literally X-rated, without no seven rated R, or was it 17? He doesn't go into X-rated, but some of the topics are total locker room talk. But here's the point I'm trying to make. He's Uncle, UNC. So a lot of people call him Uncle because he says, I'm Uncle. The reason I say that is because, look, these people are not, by any stretch of the imagination, religious Bible thumping people. And so what do they say? They don't want to be called pastors. They don't go around calling people pastors. He says, call me Uncle. It is a expression of kindness and affection, of how I view you. And yeah, I'm above, you're my uncle. And that's beautiful, that when we are going to give somebody a title of affection, of kindness. And you're saying there's a certain kinship I have with you. I'll call you uncle. I think that's beautiful. And now the reason I mention that is because I also watched the other side, which is Jason Whitlock. They don't get along. Jason Whitlock is a self-professed sinner, and he's changed his life around. He's a born again, all that stuff. But he makes a habit of always now Bible thumping and telling everybody how they're wrong. And he tries to use Bible texts and quote, you should be reading the Bible this, you should be, and he's like a Jehovah's Witness. I still love him, and I love it. I love both of them. But the problem is, what I'm saying is, this guy, Jason Whitlock, goes to church and has pastors. He'll call this guy a pastor. He'll call the other guy an apostle. And when they do that, they're always pointing the fingers and looking down on other people. Now, Jason Whitlock is notorious for this. And there's nothing, but he's talking about basketball. He's talking about football. And then he'll throw in the Bible. It's like, no, dude, no. That's like the Jehovah's Witnesses. We're trying to have a good time. We're trying to have a party. And some asshole's trying to get his time card in and starts preaching to us about paradise earth. No! And that's what happens. This is what happens when you start elevating human beings and calling them pastors and apostles. You guys can't just be brothers. And don't you understand? I don't know if I have the picture here. Don't you remember the part when Jesus is washing the feet of the apostles? No, I don't have it here. Don't you remember that? They're brothers. Nobody's above. They're fighting over who's greater. And what do these people do? He's always going to be in charge. They even call themselves the leadership. They also call themselves thought leaders. What the? Does anybody ever say that Jesus was a thought leader? Now we know the thoughts of Jesus are higher than the thoughts of man. But we don't even call Jesus Christ a thought leader. But these people love to call themselves thought leaders, leaders of institution, this and that. And they give themselves titles, bishop, pastor, disciple of Christ. And that's why they come up with, in my opinion, is stupid stuff. They're stupid because they're not keeping it simple. Where is America in biblical prophecy? No. The Sermon on the Mount, simple. What did you look, looking back on the Sermon on the Mount, what do you need to do to be a better person? Well, Matthew 5, when Jesus says, stop checking out the women, stop lusting over them. I'm working on that, brother. Okay. You see, now you can build on something, on yourself, making yourself a better person. And, stop judging other people. You can say, you're a hypocrite, you're judging these guys. No, I still love these people. I still think that they're great people. I love Shannon Sharp. He's I know he believes in God. And I love Jason Whitlock, and everybody's different. The thing is that I don't compete with them. And if they fall short, I'm not going to be quick to judge them. They're all grown adults, but there's certain behaviors that are just unacceptable. And that is calling another person a pastor, calling them your bishop, calling them your apostle of Jesus. This is what happens when you elevate human beings. When you elevate human beings, you become a cult worshiper, a worshiper of men. And you know where that took you. The road to hell is paved with the worshiping of men. Don't worship men. Call other men uncle, brother. You're my best friend or BFF. Best. Do that. Words of endearment, of kindness, but not words that elevate you to a different level. And you're only and if you allow yourself, because I've allowed myself in a with boyfriend girlfriend relationship, or even in the congregation, right? You allow yourself to be elevated. No, because the higher you're elevated, the harder you fall. So it's always good to stay on low. Now, all right, Sherry, she came back, and we love Sherry. We were told to keep the Sabbath in Scripture. Okay, the Sabbath. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. And see, that's the gift that she wants to give. Okay, and if I'm wrong, I guess I'm going to hell. But when I look at the great universe, and what Jesus talked about, I think there's some things that are greater. There's greater things. But if somebody wants to observe the Sabbath, I'm all for it. Do it, because that's your gift to God. I really do believe that if you're going to do it whole soul. Make it your gift. And I think that's very healthy. What's not healthy is when we start telling other people how to give God a gift. And I don't know if I have a picture here, but remember the picture of Cain and Abel? I do. But you know what? I'm going to export it right now so you guys can see it. The problem with Cain and Abel that people don't talk about in the in churches. I've never heard videos where people talk about Cain and Abel the way I do. And it's real simple. Cain was offering God a gift. And so was Abel. The problem is, if you look at Abel, he's not looking at Cain's gift. Cain is looking at Abel's gift. So when it comes to matters of Sabbath, sexuality, and all these other things, we're all grown adults. We're good at lying to ourselves. So what I'm trying to say is, our brother can be making a mistake, and it's good to talk to him. However, you have to also remember that what you do, you say, the reason I live this way, the reason I do these things is because this is my gift to God. And that has more of an effect than Cain hating on his brother because he's doing this or he's doing that. Do you understand the difference? And that is from the very beginning. This is why we have all the problems in the world, because we're always not minding our business on other people's gift offerings. You see this all the time. Now you say, well, Gilbert, are you being hypocritical because they're offering a gift? Yeah, I could say that you could make that stretch that I'm being a hypocrite. Okay. But the point, it bothers me when I see these things, because I see it in my former religion, that we're trying to get something so simple, and we're converting it into a complicated jigsaw puzzle. And then you're using that to get people to go back to your church, that you have to come back. And that somehow that before you die, you have to figure out this puzzle, because Jesus is going to give you an SAT test. Not Jesus, Peter is going to give you an SAT test in the pearly gates. And if you pass and answer all those questions correctly, well, then you're allowed into heaven. Some even go as far as to saying that if you die and you take the unapproved Bible with you, and you don't have the King James Bible, I'm serious. I've seen these people. They're fanatics. They actually believe, they say that when they die, they have to be buried with the King James Bible. They take the most simplest teachings and they make it complicated. Cain and Abel, and Adam and Eve did things contrary to what Yahweh told them. The biblical definition of sin. Yeah, but I'm part of that club too. I'm in the same club of Cain, Abel, Adam, and Eve. I'm in that same club. So I'm not going to throw stones on Cain and Abel. And this is the reason why I'm not going to throw stones on Adam and Eve. Yeah, they made a big mistake. But here's the thing. How long did Adam live on earth before he ate from the forbidden fruit? I don't know. We don't know. It's speculation. But it wasn't 1,000 years. We don't think it's 1,000 years. No one believes that Adam and Eve had lived on earth for 1,000 years, running around naked in the park without having kids, and without getting, without doing the deed, and then they ate from the forbidden fruit. So what does that mean? Well, what I'm saying is, how could God? And this is a question I have for God, and I don't know the answer. But how can God judge Adam and Eve with the same severity that He would judge Satan and the demons? Now, granted, Adam was able to see things that we cannot even comprehend. But the angels were able to travel through space and time, things that we cannot comprehend. So remember when Jesus says that if a lot has been given to you, a lot is going to be expected out of you. So this is why I'm so happy to have said that I learned the truth about the truth, and I'm being an ex-J-Dub, is because I surrendered. And I joke. I don't think there's anything wrong with telling God, like in a joking matter, and I do it sometimes, not all the times, but I it's kind of like a little personal joke between me and my Father. And I say, I'm so happy that you gave Jesus the job. Because as a J-Dub, I was applying for the job. I want to be the job. I want to be the leader. I want to judge. You have that mentality deep inside. But when I hit rock bottom and I learned the truth about the truth, little by little, as I was learning it, I learned to give it up, to surrender. I says, you know what? This is just too big. I can't handle it. I have to surrender and say, God, give it to Jesus Christ. Take my application, my resume, and burn it. I mean, shred it. Now, is it wrong to joke with God? I'm sure somebody might say it's wrong. It's wrong. But that's what I do sometimes, not all the times. So isn't it interesting how I went ahead and got this guy and the couple, and I I was able to throw Jason Whitlock and Shannon Sharp all, and I mixed them in all in a blender. And the reason I mentioned that is because if I was going to go to a party, a legit party, nothing immoral, but just a party, because as a Jehovah's Witness, party, oh, it must be bad. No. If I was to go to a party, we have 4 Christians, 3 there, 4. I would rather hang out with 3 sinners. I would rather hang out with these guys. I'm sorry. And maybe that's a bad reflection on me. But the sinners know that they're sinners. And the sinners are not trying to create a SAT score. They're not trying to create a riddle. And they're not throwing out Bible texts like, hand grenades. No. But when I tell people why I love God, I explain why I love God, why I love Jesus, how my Father and Jesus made me a better person. But I don't do it in a way like, Matthew this, First Thessalonians this. No. And I don't talk to, and you know what I found? Like my friend, he's in a retirement home. It's a poor, sad thing. Jose, we went to kindergarten together and all the way to high school. So I visit him, and I love Jose. He's my friend. And he gets a lot of people, try to preach to him and everything. And he goes, you know what, Gilbert? He goes, you told me the last time, 2 weeks ago when I went to go see him. He says, you know what, Gilbert? He goes, every single time you come, you talk to me about God. It's always about God and Jesus. I go, I'm sorry, Jose. He goes, no. He goes, I love the way you talk about God and Jesus. I go, yeah, because we're equals. I'm not trying to sell you Jesus. I'm not trying to get you to subscribe to Jesus. I'm not trying to tell you, give Jesus a thumb up, right? I'm not trying to get you to donate to Jesus. I'm talking to you like a brother and say, hey, we have a Father. His name is Jesus, our eternal Father. We have our Heavenly Father that Jesus talks about in Matthew 6:1, right? So But I talked to him like that, like two brothers, like my brother Jesse and I talking about my dad. And that's the answer. And when my brother Jesse and myself talk about dad, we don't complicate the issue. Biblical prophet, America and biblical prophecy. No, 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 no. We talk about the simplicity of my dad. We talk about how dad was very simple. He would tell us when he'd come home from the Fraternal Order of Eagles and mom would bring us back home from the Kingdom Hall. He goes, "It's my turn to teach you about God." He sat us on his laps. Jesse on one side, me on the other. He goes, "There's two types of people in this world, grateful and ungrateful. Now go to bed." So my dad taught me keep it simple way before it was cool to say keep it simple. So that's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say. Wow, I got 8 people on a Sunday, and nice to see everybody here. Teacher. Yeah, I have a really good teacher. Hey Nadine, how you guys doing? And I don't think anybody has any questions. If you guys have any questions, we can always play the game Stump the GG. So was I wrong? Should I have calmed down and waited 3 days to do this video? But I did it right. I had this. I got to get this off my chest. So if you guys have any questions, if you don't, I'm going to head on out. And I have no ill will toward these pastors or these other Christians. It's just, and here's the thing. This is the other problem I have. Check this out. I'm going to show you a guy that I love a lot, and his name is Jason Whitlock. I love this. I love listening to his analysis. I don't agree with him. I'm like 50%, and he has this girl that comes on. Her name is Shamika. Not only is she beautiful, black woman, Shamika, but damn, she is. I mean, she's like what you want a mother to be, a wife to be. Just says it like it is, and she makes for a great show. And I love her insight. But here's here's the thing. What was Jason? Jason Whitlock. This is what you guys don't understand. There's a saying in the Caribbean that says, "Give Satan the meat and give God the bones." And he talks about Jason Whitlock indirectly talks about it, how when he was up and coming, right, and he was getting into the broadcasting world, he maybe he even paid for some of that tail. He was a sex addict and all that other stuff, and chasing tail and everything. And he talks about it openly that he's a fornicator and yada yada. And he tries to change his ways. He's celibate now, and he's trying to find a good wife. God bless him. But he's older now. So now that he's older and the bones are there, all the flesh is gone. Now we give God the bones. The problem our Christian brothers don't understand is that you gave all the flesh to Satan. And now that you're older and you have the bones, you're trying to point the finger at me. And listen, I'm not saying this to raise myself up above Jason, but Jason, I was serving God when you were chasing tail. All my life, I was serving God, what I thought was serving God. And I know that even though it was erroneous in my teachings, erroneous in my ways, I understand that God understands the intent of the heart. But while you were chasing tail and jumping in bed and doing all that shit, getting drunk and maybe even doing drugs, you were using your youth for the flesh. And I'm not judging you for it. Sometimes I think about it like, wait a minute, maybe I missed out. And Psalm 72, Asaph says, yeah, maybe I'm over here serving in the temple, shit, and I'm poor and bankrupt, but all of these other guys that are banging the Philistine chicks or whatever, they're living high on the hog. But Asaph, is like, no, no. And he finishes, saying that, no. He finishes the psalm saying no, that it's good for him. He found joy in serving God. So while you're doing all that shit and you live that life, now you found Jesus. Praise Jesus. that Jason Whitlock found Jesus. Praise him. Praise Jesus. But why are you going to pontificate on me? Now you're going to tell me that I'm wrong? You see? No, that bothers me. It's like, hey, all of these people, like, dude, we know the kind of life you lived. And now you're going to come shit on me? No. Talk to me like a brother. But don't be pointing the fingers. Don't be throwing Bible texts like, First Thessalonians this, and Chronicles this, and, Genesis and Psalms. No. Calm down. Don't talk to me like that. And that's why a lot of people don't want to go to church. This happens to my brother Jesse. My brother Jesse gets this all the time. Everyone's smoking weed, doing drugs, banging chicks, banging guys, doing the craziest things, porn addicts, the whole thing. And my brother Jesse, goes to school with all of these guys, works with them. And my brother Jesse's a straight and narrow since he was a kid. And now that Jesse goes to a Republican Party convention, or he goes, to a city council meeting, they're over here trying to preach to my brother Jesse and tell him, you got to accept Jesus. And Jesus was like, what? Where were you? So all I'm saying is how, us Christians drive people away. Because we're talking about things that make no sense, bring no foundation. But Jesus Christ says, no, the words of the Sermon on the Mount are concrete with steel reinforced foundation. Gandhi understood that. But we scare people away. We scare people away by trying to let them know how intelligent we are, and how we know all of these different little verses in the Bible, and how we know all the inner workings of the book of Revelation. I love reading the book of Revelation. I find myself reading the book of Revelation all the time on BibleGateway.com. But I don't understand it. I speculate. And I'm not going to come here and tell you that I know and make myself feel greater than you and call myself a pastor. No. And the reason I don't call myself a pastor and talk about stupid stuff, in my opinion, which I think is stupid, is I like to keep it simple. I don't call myself a pastor. I lost my train of thought. I don't call myself a pastor because I'm your brother. I call myself the Jehovah's Witness elder you wish you had when you went to the Kingdom Hall, in a joking manner. Right? Do you understand? So now it becomes like a kinship. I'm joking with you. I'm GG for GB. I'm having fun with it. I'm taking the absurdity of the Jehovah's Witness teachings, the GB, the elder. I'm taking the absurdity of these things. And what am I doing? I'm having a good time. And saying, hey, guys, we're liberated over here. Let's have fun. Let's have fun. And that's why I say, if I had to go to a party, I want to hang out with these guys. Now, if I was in a party with these guys, they would do what happened to me and Jesse all the time. Shannon Sharp will say, Gilbert, we had a great time. It's time for you to go. Because if they're going to do things that maybe are questionable, they know, Gilbert, this is the line that you cannot cross with us. That's called mutual respect. This is why I like, sinners. Because the sinners know where I am, and I know where they're at. I don't judge them. But I hope that we can have fun together. We can enjoy life. And hopefully, that goodness can rub off on me, on them. Now, Jesus set that example. He was around the sinners all the time. And why was Jesus around the sinners? Because he was confident. He had a foundation. He wasn't going to be moved. So he was with the prostitutes, the tax collectors, everybody, the worst of the worst. Jesus Christ hung out with people that look like a Star Wars bar scene. Do you remember the Star Wars bar scene? That's where Jesus would hang out, with those people. But he uplifted them. It was a great, fun environment that uplifted. Not by throwing around Bible texts or saying how smart he was. My dad, he taught me about, quantum mechanics. Do you know quantum mechanics? He wasn't like that. Jesus talked about chickens, remember? Hens. Jesus talked about animals, birds, plants, simple things. But not our Christian brothers. We talk about complicated things. Now I'm rambling on. So, did you guys have any questions? I think I'm done. There's no questions. You guys don't want to stump the GB. Okay, that's fine. So, Sherry, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming, and thank you because love Shirley. I love Shirley. She goes, Gilbert, you're not going to hell. The Sabbath is you always give to us. Thank you. I like that comment. And yes, Jimmy Bell and John Lang had a blast on the memorial. And you know what? It was great because I'll tell you why it's great. Because they showed respect. Now, there's nothing wrong. Well, though there is. It's wrong to crash a Kingdom Hall, disrupt. All that stuff is wrong. And I've done it many times. But it's okay. Do it. Get it out of your system. It's still wrong. But at some time, we have to grow up as adults. So if somebody were to do something that wasn't wrong, that wasn't right, I'm not going to judge them. You know, they got to get it out of their system. Our good friend Son of Thunder got some eggs, threw it at the Kingdom Hall. Good for him. He paid a fine. The cops got him. Would he do it again? Absolutely. But you know, you graduate. You know, so going back to these guys, they did a great job because they showed respect. So gotta give them props for that. That's why she says it's great. She says it's great because I really believe the way they showed respect elevated their experience. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So guys, there's nothing here to, yeah, I hear and agree. That's usually what happens when you talk to the GB. I get that all the time. But if you can't stump the GB, if you don't have a question to stump me, I'm gonna call it quits. Thank you guys for joining, and I hope you like my intro. I like my intro. If you have any suggestions on how I can make it better, let me know. So I'm gonna close out with the intro. Okay, there you go.
Come right on in. Welcome to Late Night with the Two Witnesses. Don't worry, there are only two elders, not three. So you are safe. Broadcasting west of the Rockies and east of the Paradise. With 144,000 watts of high-energy active force, GG for GB and his helper pioneer their way through the valley of the shadow of the Watchtower. Remember, do not subscribe, do not like. Be a trailblazer. Not a sheep. Run for your life and don't look back, like Lot's wife.